compare the story of the cow and the way the cow was handled with the way the horses were handled. The horses that bolted in London were handled. And I remembered as well, just during the break there, I just remembered it some years ago when I used to fly up to Manchester every Monday morning from Heathrow. We were driving in a taxi along the M4, and traffic just came to a terrible standstill, and eventually we got to a point where it was causing a problem. And it was a swan, one swan, that had escaped for, I think this is on Sanctuary, and this swan was waddling along the inside lane and just taking its time, and everybody had slowed down so as not to hurt the swan. Nobody thought, just ram it and get it out of the way, it might fly home. And which I mean, I was frustrated at the slowness of the journey, but I think I'm rather pleased that nobody did that. But that was a swan. Beautiful, beautiful animals, but much smaller than a cow. In year, almost a year old calf. And I don't know, there was something heavy-handed. I understand that the cow needed to be stopped and needed to be contained, but there was something heavy-handed about the way that it was carried out. It seems to me. Dan, you're talking to. Hello.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm okay. This happened outside your friend's house.
Yeah, so I read about it in the paper the next day, but my friend, the night it happened, he called me at 4 o'clock at night and rang me. I answered the phone and I thought, why is he calling this time? So he called me and went, I'm never going to believe what's happened. He said, there's a cow outside my house laying in the road. I'm like, what? So basically, from what I can gather from the what I've read is that it's saying the cow escaped and they've got video of some police car hitting it on that video. But it got up and it then went to where my friend lived in Felton, and the police, because he thought it was a car accident, and he was all right to go and he heard it bang, and then he looked out, the police had hit the cow again.
Yeah, second time.
And no one seems to be saying about that.
You reminded it in the chocolate
Two
broker.
hours later.
No, I have. It is reported. It is being reported, Darren. You might not have heard it yourself, but I promise you it is.
Okay.
Including at the top of this hour when I spoke about it and said they hit it a second time, less heavily, but still to floor it. A second
Yes.
time, yeah.
And the other thing he did say, he said, in no way, shape or form did the police hurt the cow. He said the cow walked into the park of his own accord.
Walked into what?
And there's a park opposite his house, and it literally strolled through the gate and went into the park. And that's when they shut the gates, and then I think the farmer came with a 4x4 and trailer to pick it up. And he spent an hour racing around the park trying to get it.
Yeah, I'm told today that the cow, I say I'm told, I read, personal call, I read today that it's the cow, that Bo Lucy, as she's called, is doing okay.
Yes.
Do you think it alarmed us more than it alarmed her?
I think it did, but ramming a cow with a car, I mean, you can herd it with a car, but going full on into it, I think that's a bit extreme. I mean, it wasn't as though it was in the middle of the high street, in the middle of a subdivision place.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have been hard, and no wonder the cow kept ramming people. I would have done if someone kept coming at me with a car, personally.
It just,
Yeah.
and the first hit was very strong and quite
Yes.
that was designed to just completely disable, isn't it?
Well, he said it actually woke him up to hit, like the noise. He thought it was an accident outside his house, because he only lives down a little road, and he said that's what woke him up, and he looked out, and there was the police car with the cow man in front of it, which, yeah.
And did you say at the beginning of our conversation that the cow got up and wandered off to Felton?
Well, so this was in Felton.
Right, so he was first in States and was in Felton.
And then this went to Felton.
And the cow stood up again and was able to walk?
Yes, and then was walking about, and he said he said to me, there must be at least 20 police cars here. He said they're all trying to hold it. He said the cow was just wandering about. He said, and then in the end, the cow literally just wandered into the park. He said that it was ridiculous. It was like a light show. He said there were so many police cars, it was ridiculous.
Well, you'd still, that cow, I'm glad she's okay, but you'd still need
them to hurt us. We're going up to it and trying to calm it down. It's kind of the way to work with livestock. You don't get any
But if you don't know livestock, I wouldn't go near. I wouldn't walk towards a cow that was on the loose to calm it down. I would upset myself in that cow's path is what I would do. But because you need people who know what they're doing to help an animal.
I agree, and other people just not have experience with us in the country. If I grew up in the country, if I would ask if they needed a hand, I would just interfere. I do think people who have some experience with animals will communicate about that better. But I also think ramming it with authority on earth is not going to help anything. You let it down, what are you going to do then? You want to put it to the pet, to the normal.
But also if you haven't killed it, and it gets up, it's even more enraged and terrified.
There is no way you could go at that state and not think you're going to do some real damage to that poor animal.
Do you think it is a real town-country split, this? That the attitude was just get it down?
I don't know. I can't speak for I'm sure the officers were panicked. It's not an easy job. We'll never call the police and they're having a great day anyway, so it can't be easy to make those choices. But really, running it down at speed, it's actually, that belongs to a farmer. I don't know what they thought was going to come out of this except an injured animal. And outrage. That's change.
Yeah, and it's distressing to look at, isn't it?
Oh, it's terrible. It's terrible. And I don't think it matters if, we drink milk or cheese or for food or meat or anything. I think it doesn't matter. My butcher's daughter, of course, really believes strongly in looking after animals and doing my time for competition terms. But, it's really important that we look after the country, we look after the farmers, we raise our food, and we look after the animals, but we should do it with them.
I don't think it is contradictory in terms. I mean, vegetarians and vegans listening might think it absolutely is because they take a sort of zero tolerance approach on it. But I think you're right. I think even if you are happy for you can still honour what they're giving you.
And just really respect it and really treat it properly. It's really important to do that. And if you are interested in living products, for example, you get better products as part of that as well.
Thanks, Gillian, for your call. Gillian in Belfast. Quick word with John in Hull. I don't.
First time caller, a bit nervous.
So,
I think I'm going to make myself very uncomfortable at the moment. I think the police acted quite fairly, given the resources they had. In as much like, whenever we're talking about the policeman killed the cow, and not the cow that killed a member of the public or maimed them, and then we would be saying, why didn't the policeman have him come? I saw a cow on the A22, the nearest Winston, and it was on the main road, absolutely going berserk. We ran in to tell the farmer that the cow was loose. I think you want to shot it. So these things are to be taken as you can't hurt them up. And when I could make out the cow was going berserk, and I think the policeman, with his limited resources, took the right action.
to disable it.
Yes.
Yeah, well, we'll see. I mean, the police. No, I don't think. I think it's off the grounds as to whether it was ultimately the necessary thing to do. So I don't think he'd fear saying what you just said to him. The police force, they issued a statement yesterday afternoon, didn't they, saying, we looked at several options before we did this. It did feel like the last resort for us, short of shooting the animal dead. And over a period of hours, they had these decisions to make. So they didn't just go, oh, there's a cow, let's run it over.
No. But the poor policeman who did this, is being lampooned, not lampooned.
Potentially criticised,
yeah. I think it's totally unfair. In a similar situation, I probably would have done the same thing. That's what I'm thinking.
I would unless I saw the cow literally about to land on a human being.
Yeah.
And then I might. But but you're right. You know, it's easy when you're not making the decision to berate the decision, isn't it? I just think what we should learn from this is that we try and find better ways to do this with cows or any large animal is on the run in a city.
The other thing I'd make a shout at the TV when the Home Secretary demanded a full investigation about cow being killed, or cow being mad. To me, it was just totally over the top, and just infuriating. You've got the public on his side because everybody agreed on poor cow,
Do you know? It's okay. I've been saying it all morning. Poor sorry cow. I feel like an episode of EastEnders. But do you know what? I disagree with you on that, Don. I do think you need to investigate how it ended up being that.
Yeah, but the Home Secretary,
Oh, I see what you mean.
making a statement on the national TV, come on, it's a bit over the top. Maybe. I don't know. It's his job to oversee how the police behave, Yeah.
I suppose. But I mean, my sense of it is that we should learn a better way to do it for when that happens next time and put something in place that does not involve ramming a 10-month-old calf. Thank you, Don, for your very entertaining call. Don in Purley. It's 2:32. Let's get some headlines from Amelia Cox.
Nigel Farage has revealed Reform UK's manifesto, which includes plans to cut income tax and freeze lawful immigration. Elsewhere, the Liberal Democrats say they'll extend fuel duty relief in rural areas, and Labour say they will push for a better Brexit deal. A man has been sentenced to at least 22 years in prison for the murder of a retired teacher he'd been stealing money from. 29-year-old Paul McNaughton killed Peter Koshin in August 2022 after the 75-year-old discovered he'd taken tens of thousands of pounds. And a 24-year-old man is in hospital with serious injuries after being attacked by a dog in South Wales. Emergency services were called out in Aberavon earlier. LBC weather, a mixture of sunshine and cloud across most of the UK. Showers will be limited to the north and east by this evening, a high of 22 degrees.
This is LBC.
This is what award-winning customer service sounds like from real Octopus Energy calls.
You've been good.
Oh, pants! As you were, Sue. So I dries my legs and bum, and I dropped the towel on the floor. And it sort of forms the shape of E.T. You know, the extraterrestrial from the film. And Derek thinks it's actual E.T. come to visit him and be his pal, and he's all happy. And then I've come back to pick up said towel to dry my Tootsie Rootsies and the bit just under my bum, because that's the last bit to dry, isn't it? So anyway, I picked up the towel off the floor, and it doesn't look like E.T. anymore. So that was Derek Pierce shouting at me, "You've killed E.T! You've killed E.T!" So he's in bits, so he's needing comforting. And he likes chocolate, so I thought I'd buy a massive pile of chocolate to cheer him up. The end and scene.
Right. And you think a big massive pile of chocolate is the way forward, do you?
Yes, always works. And I'll get a wee bit of peace to watch public eye. It's on Talking Pictures TV. Well, I like Talking Pictures TV because you can kid on it's 1974 until the adverts come on. Then it's the over 50s planning. You get reminded of your mortality. Sorry, am I getting my chocolates? I gave you quite a sizable banter window there to get my chocolates.
Right. I mean, you could buy a big massive pile of chocolates. You could, talk to Derek. I mean, you didn't actually kill E.T., did you?
I remember. Could I just get my chocolates, please?
Sue, chocolates are short-term fix. It's just a crutch. It won't actually solve the problem, would it? And Derek, I mean, he's,
What?
well, he's not exactly a thin penny, is he?
You mean he's not an archbishop?
No, I mean, he's morbidly obese.
Dear you, I can see that. The GP can see that. His Fitbit can see that. Well, we don't get around his wrist. But you can't see that.
I'm sorry, Sue, but all you're doing is enabling him, thereby reinforcing his chronic bad habits. And if you continue to...
How dare you judge me?
Oh, I'm not judging you. I'm just...
This is meant to be a shock, not a judge's shock.
manifesto is associated with lie. He made that very clear. He said that several times during his speech today. But he started the launch to great applause from the room, quoting that well-known Eminem song, which he also made into a popular TikTok recently, saying he's back.
Well, guess who's back? Back again.
But it wasn't long before he launched, Sheila, into his attack on Labour. The main reason, of course, why he's here in Merthyr Tydfil, a traditionally strong Labour seat, to launch his manifesto, or contract as he calls it. He called the Labour Welsh Government woke and criticised them for having higher council tax rates, worse NHS waiting times, worse education statistics. It goes on really, but of course the 20-mile-an-hour speed limit also came up, which elicited loud booing from the Reform candidates in the room. But he also turned on the Conservatives. He said they lacked leadership and called the party in the Senedd feeble. He's of course here appealing to what they have called left-behind communities, trying to cement their position as the opposition, as polls are indicating they could be, not just in England, but here in Wales as well. But Nigel Farage was quite candid about the fact that he doesn't expect to have to be able to follow through on his manifesto in the next few months.
So this is not something with which we're going to govern the country. That's not possible in this election. Although this election is, for our party and for me, the first important step on the road to 2029. Our aim and our ambition is to establish a bridgehead in Parliament and to become a real opposition to Labour.
Stai așa, nu te aud deloc. Vreau să înțeleg lucruri. Acum, nu știu cum tot. Mă auzi? Elena? Alo? De acum, da. Da, dar eu nu pot să vorbesc pe cameră, că conduc. Ai primit cumva vreun e-mail de la Monese? Da, că eu am primit un e-mail și... Da, la tine, pe Cosina Iacob Nicol, Cosina 2005. Că scrie acolo următorul lucru. Trebuie să accesăm neapărat în 24 de ore, să accesăm aplicația și să updatăm datele noastre. Pentru că dacă nu ne închide accesul și cardul ăla încă era bun, adică o să verific un pic când expiră. Dacă expiră în 2025, bine, știi? O să mai primesc aici pe Northdown. Păi ce să fac cu cardul? Să primesc bani. Să primesc bani pe el. Ce-am făcut? De la serviciu, da. Dar nu știi când erai angajat, primeai bani pe cardul ăla? Cardul tău și cardul meu, da. Cardul meu nu ar fi așa important, dar la tine e foarte important, că dacă pe viitor te vom mai angaja, vom folosi aceeași aplicație, nu? Că nu poți să deschizi altă cont în altă. La asta mă refeream. Și verific un pic dacă ai primit un e-mail de la Monescu, da? Da, mulțumesc. Doamne ajută. Serios, în vechi? Da. Ai un pic glasul mai... Ai un pic glasul mai gros, așa. Baie. Da, vedeți, baie. Acolo sunt funde. Și știi de ce sunt funde? Sunt funde pentru că e cam drept. Nu e inclinat așa tare. Acolo în perete. Și acolo stă apa și... În afară de faptul că are scutul. La ce diferență? Tu nu poți să intri cu aparatul ăla, cu sârma aia lungă. Se oprește. Așa, da? Cod. Aha. Și dar pe la baie, da, dar pe la baie e bine încercat. A, jos, da, da. Pe acolo am încercat și eu. Da, pe acolo am încercat și eu, da. Da, e făcut rău. Singura modalitate cu soluții din aia, să băgăm soluții acidă, să desfacă toate grăsimile alea. Ai pus? Da. Nu, a? Ar mai fi o soluție să, cum am zis, să facem țeavă groasă, încă din afară. Înțelegi? Și să vedem, să nu ne putem da un curcal pereche ca să facem scurgerea până în cap. O să să mă uit și eu, când sunt acasă. Aha. Da. Unde le spui? Un pic, da, nu am înțeles. Dar, cum ai zis tu, deci vrei să schimbi robinetul sau nu? Da, dar tu ziceai robinet, tu zici la robinet toată instalația aia sau robinetul partea de sus? E partea de sus, nu înseamnă robinetul. Instalația de jos, aia da, nu trebuie schimbat. Da, trebuie curățat, care tot. Scurgerea de la scurge, da, la scurgerea aia de la mașina de la spălat, că nu putem băga acolo, din țeava aia nu putem băga, să căutăm, dacă, să băgăm sârma aia, să băgăm sârma, țeava aia. Da, o niciunaș, mă, mersi. Vedea și dacă faci pe acolo ce are, sârma. Da. Verifică e-mail-ul și trimite-mi un răspuns. Doamnă, știu.
Blowing a bull and that sort of thing. And then when I actually saw the film, I mean, it was what we would call a heifer step, you know, obviously very, very quiet and would have been easily managed. I can think 2 or 3 or 4 men with a halter and rope could have guided it into a garden or something. Another caller had told me, I think, that the heifer actually went into a park afterwards. Well, what was wrong with getting half a dozen people to follow it into the park or surround it or keep it going that way? That would be the obvious thing to do.
Yeah, which again brings me back to, we don't know what was tried first, but I'd love to know what was tried first.
Well, I just think it was very much, incompetence of the police, Obviously there's nobody there that knew anything about stock or what to do, but I think they probably have panicked. It makes me really angry because I can tell you, as a farmer, not that they would have, I mean, I would hate to think anybody doing anything like that, but if a farmer had done that and it had been seen, there would have been, there would have been serious consequences, quite rightly. But I mean, it's just absolutely, I can't tell you how angry I was when I saw that.
Yeah. And I would be...
Should be caused pain and stress like
it's been so interesting to get calls from farming communities and farmers because, you know, you deal with animals all the time.
We do, and we've had experience with some quite hairy ones as well, and I don't, obviously hairy they would be, but, you know.
I know what you mean, hairy situations.
Well, to actually halter break a calf, you know, a potential bull that will sell at the sale later on, it takes time, you know, and you've got to win their trust as well. But, you know, chasing them with vehicles or just chasing them out the street, especially dark and street lights, etc., the poor animal would be at its wit's end, you know.
Yeah.
But as I say, if it's been given time, cornered in a garden or something of the sort, just given time, and it would have been more easily caught, I'm quite sure.
Well, thank you very much, Neil, for your call. That's Neil, a farmer in Moffat in Dumfries. It's 2:47.
This week on LBC.
I'm Keir Starmer, and I'm looking forward to taking your calls.
Join me, Rishi Sunak, as I take your calls on LBC.
My question for Rishi Sunak would be, what are you going to do about NHS waiting times?
What are you going to do about housing?
Your government has lost my trust, so what are you going to do to win it back?
As Britain decides, this is your chance to put your questions directly to our next Prime Minister. With me, Nick Ferrari, exclusively on LBC.
My question is for Keir Starmer. I'm struggling to pay my bills. What are you going to do to help me?
When are you going to turn the NHS around?
You say you're going to scrap Rwanda, but what are you going to do with the people already here?
Only LBC lets you question the next PM. All starts tomorrow morning from 7 with Keir Starmer on Nick Ferrari at breakfast. Listen on your radio and on Global Player. LBC.
Serious about the right vitamins for you and your family? Trust Vitabiotics, the UK's #1 vitamin company with 50 years experience and the only one to receive the Queen's Award for Innovation twice from Boots, pharmacies and Vitabiotics.com. For #1 verification, see Vitabiotics.com.
Albert Einstein here. Chico and I are out for walkies in the park. My watch tells me we've walked exactly 3,004 steps. Our personal best. Our steps aren't the only thing we track. Our smart meter display at home tells us how much energy we use daily, weekly and monthly, which can help me make changes to save energy. And now my watch tells me it's time to head back for a cuppa. Right, Chico?
For extra help managing your household budgets, search Get a Smart Meter today. Consumer action required. Eligibility may vary.
Taylor and Ink.
Get yours in a blink and for less than you think at cartridgepeople.com. For unbeatable prices,
Cartridge People.
printing sorted.
Feel blind, half price promise. Whether you're a roller coaster enthusiast looking for your next thrill,
Sorry, guys, how fast?
foodie on the hunt for the perfect spring roll, we're on the road to the UK's biggest rollerblade convention. Why not roll out of one of our super comfy beds to enjoy a tasty, unlimited brekkie? Wherever you're going, whatever you're doing, do your thing and get great stays at great prices at PremierInn.com. Premier Inn, rest easy. T's and C's apply. Unlimited breakfast subject to availability.
It started with an old cabbage. I was going to chuck it out, but my New Year's resolution is being more resourceful. So, I searched reducing food waste on TikTok and found loads of videos on there. A kimchi recipe really caught my eye. I gave some to my neighbours and they loved it. And here I am. My first day at the local farmers market with my new side hustle, Colleen's Kimchi. Not bad for leftovers. It starts on TikTok.
When you think of a hero, you don't necessarily picture a crumpet. But when Warburtons needed a hero to run marathons and raise money for Cancer Research UK, there was only one person to call. Crumpet, a 6'4" anthropomorphic crumpet, aka Lee from Sales in a crumpet suit. Did Crumpet help raise £3 million for Cancer Research UK? Oh yes. Is Crumpet machine washable? We can only pray. Good stuff is baked in at Warburtons. Follow Crumpet's journey. Search Warburtons Good Stuff. All the big names are here. Ooh, who's that?
I think she was in the movie about that really big shark.
No, not her. Doris.
She's automating invoices like us so she can spend more time on that flower wall.
QuickBooks to save you up to 8 hours a week so you can bring your vision to life. That's how you business differently. Intuit QuickBooks.
Sheila Fogarty on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
After 3, I want to talk, prompted by something Rishi Sunak has said, I want to talk about the degree to which you're comfortable with politicians being open about their religion with you. There's no reason why people people shouldn't be open about their religion, of course, but politics is a strange old business. You remember that Alistair Campbell made it a rule, or suggested to Tony Blair, I think, that it was a rule in their campaign and in their government not to do God. We don't do God. And then 10 minutes after finishing his life as Prime Minister, Tony Blair converted to Catholicism, not literally 10 minutes, but pretty soon afterwards. Theresa May was kind of discreetly open, wasn't she, about Christian faith and how it drove us to deep carnage. Rishi Sunak has been speaking about it. He said his Hindu faith is guiding him through the election campaign. No jokes here. This is about people sincerely held faiths. The Prime Minister said he takes strength from the Indian religion's concept of dharma, which tells followers to focus on effort over outcome. A practicing Hindu, Mr. Sunak is a practicing Hindu, and he has a shrine in number 10 for family worship. I'm presuming shrines don't need to be very large. I mean, people have little holy corners and things, don't they, in their homes of all kinds. He was talking to the Sunday Times about this, and he said it's time for it, but adds that he gets fulfilment from just doing what he believes is right. So let's talk about how comfortable you are having leaders and MPs as well who are open about having a religious faith. We'll talk more about some other examples after 0345 6060 973. But let's stick for a few more minutes with this story about Bo Lucy, the 10-month-old calf who was run over by Surrey police yesterday deliberately. Jason in Reading. Hi, Jason.
Hello, how are you?
I'm fine, yeah. You want to talk about other options?
Yes, other options. This action by the police was totally unnecessary. I'm an ex-firefighter from Berkshire in Reading, and we're trained, or some of us are trained, to deal with these situations. And I know that Surrey Fire and Rescue has an animal rescue team. I'm not sure whereabouts in Surrey it is, but they're actually trained to deal with these situations. And it would have been a much more favourable outcome for everybody. Now, there was an incident in Reading about 4 years ago where a cow was rammed 3 times, or twice, by a police car. The car was written off and the cow was actually killed. That video made it onto social media, and I know for a fact that the animal rescue unit that was in Caversham in Reading at the time was having station. Now this cow was terrorised for about 6 or 7 hours before they had to ground it. And I just wonder why nobody thought from the police to call people that knew what to do.
Yeah, well, again, we don't know for sure that they didn't. It's going to be interesting to see, because the Surrey police statement yesterday, late afternoon, said that they had tried other options over several hours before they decided to do this. So I'd be keen to know what those other options were. But again, I agree with you. They're not, I know these incidents aren't, they don't happen every day, but they're not vanishingly rare, are they? Because we can all think of other examples of it, not least the horses recently, in central London. But we need to have a better system, don't we, of dealing with it rather than just mowing down animals.
Oh, most definitely, and that better system is in place. If they'd have taken their time to look at the animal rescue unit within the fire service in Surrey, it could have had a much more favourable outcome for everybody.
Well, we'll find out whether they did. Maybe they did ask for their help. I genuinely don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if you can still find the footage of the incident in Reading, but that one was absolutely shocking.
And remind me, who was doing the ramming in that? Was that just civilians?
No, that was a police officer.
That was police. I don't remember that story.
That one actually only got onto the Thames Valley Police social media page on Facebook, and it was taken down pretty sharpish when the negative comments started coming up. But these firefighters not just trying to deal with stuck up trees, which, to be honest, until it's 7 years in the fire service, I think only ever done 2 of them, we let it get down on its own. They're actually trained at Sparshall in Hampshire to deal with heavy animals, So there was an option there, and even if the fire crew in Surrey was busy or out on another shovel, Reading isn't actually that far away from Stone. not actually looked at this footage of what went on. I think it was a night, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. So flashing blue lights, terrorising the cow, making.
And also, because it was around midnight, I think there would have been fewer chances of it hitting a person. Because it was not running around at midnight.
Yeah, well, I mean, with all the flashing blue lights and everything like that, you never know what an animal was going to do. So the best thing to do would have been to back off and corral it somewhere or it comes back, because that would have been the safest option.
Let me read this text to you to get your reaction to it, Jason. It says, as a cop, I'm so pleased that we have so many armchair critics, cow whispering, massive specialist members. The sarcasm is just dripping with sarcasm. Anyway, I'll finish it. Members of the public who are clearly often clueless. Yes, agreed it wasn't pretty at all, but a tactical contact would have been authorised by a senior officer, balanced against all available tactics, including a vet. Having been involved in similar situations, you cannot have a vet, member of the public, chasing a cow up and down restricted areas in the hope of landing a tranquilizer. And let's get over this romantic nonsense of it being just 10 months old, as if that it's a nicer cow strip. That is the most sarcastic. I've read a lot of Twitter in my time. That is the most sarcastic one I've ever received. Poor little Lucy, who would have been lovely to be cut to death by a pretty mechanical illness. Thank you, Jason. I mean, I'm sorry, there are funny aspects to the story. There's no funny aspect to the hurt that's been inflicted on the poor animal, but the reactions that some people are giving me are absolutely priceless. Thank you for that text, Louie. Karen in Kingston. Hello, Karen.
Hi, Kate. We spoke recently. Unfortunately, I think I upset people then, and I think I'm about to do it again. But the other day, very young woman, I was in the police briefly, and I really remember an anecdote about it. Was it an officer that was going through a car windscreen, and I've never forgotten it. And I think anybody driving around the country vehicles that's a new bike, they know the risks of frightened animals or the impact. And my point being that it actually covers lassoing cows at Hendon on the police curriculum. And nobody expects it. Nobody expects it that the control room had said, unfortunately, they couldn't get a local vet, they didn't know who the cow was, and that officer's first duty was preservation of life. And what nobody's mentioned is that includes his animal. And a very frightened cow being corralled is likely to try and get over the car and through the windscreen. It's really tough, and I just think people should think about what we ask our officers. And as that guy who fell in said, it's very easy with hindsight when you're sitting around to comment. And I have animals and absolutely adore them, but his duty was the preservation of life. And I wonder how many people jumping up and down about in that. When he was carrying out his duty, and as your previous caller said, the 5 people of the obvious people to go to with anything like that, they weren't there.
Well, let's find out. We don't know. Let's find out in the fullness of time exactly what happened in the lead up to that decision making. And you know, there has been understanding expressed towards the officer as well as criticism. Thanks very much, Karen, for your call. Karen in Kingston. It's 3 o'clock.
On your radio, on Global Player, and
LBC.
leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC.
From Global's newsroom at 3 o'clock, Nigel Farage has been laying out what Reform UK is calling its contract for people in Merthyr Tydfil. Party leader promised to freeze lawful immigration and to leave the European Court of Human Rights. He's admitted, though, that they don't expect to win the vote in July.
We are a very, very new political party, and we would have much preferred this election to take place in October or November. I personally was a bit crestfallen initially by what Rishi Sunak said when he announced July the 4th, but we are running very fast to catch up.
Elsewhere, the Defence Secretary Grant Shapps has been accused of waving the white flag after saying a Tory victory is unlikely. Conservative Party candidate Philip Davis has told LBC that's not fair.
People sort of asking the question that when he gives an honest answer, they sort of accuse him of waving the white flag. I think,
grand chap said we're on course for a massive majority, you'd be getting even more stick. So, look, I think what Grant was saying was if the polls are anywhere close to being right, the country is going to face socialism on steroids, and that is not going to be a good thing for anybody. And that's just looking at where the polls are now.
Labour says it wants to improve elements of the UK's trade deal with the EU, while the Lib Dems want to extend rural fuel duty relief. The SNP, which launches its manifesto on Wednesday, says it will end austerity in Scotland. A 29-year-old man has been jailed for at least 22 years for murdering a retired teacher he met on a dating app. Paul McNaughton became fed up after 75-year-old Peter Potion threatened to go to the police after finding out he'd been stealing from him. He killed the pensioner in Leith in Edinburgh in 2022. Israeli officials say Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has dissolved the war cabinet that was tasked with steering the war in Gaza. It follows the departure of opposition leader Benny Gantz. Israel and Hamas are considering the latest proposals for a ceasefire in exchange for the return of hostages. And Sir Keir Starmer will be taking your calls on LBC tomorrow from 7 a.m. It's the first of two exclusive election phone-ins hosted by Nick Ferrari with Rishi Sunak on Wednesday. You can see full details of Global's biggest ever general election coverage plans at lbc.co.uk. In the city, a short time ago, the FTSE 100 was trading down 2 points at 81.43. The pound buys $1.26 and €1.18. LBC weather, a mixture of sunshine and cloud across most of the UK. Showers will be limited to the north and east by this evening, a high of 22 degrees. From Global's newsroom for LBC, I'm Amelia Cox.
This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Sheila Fogarty.
Hello there, good afternoon to you. I want to talk about religious faith and politics and how the two hang together, if indeed they do hang together, in this country. I mean, in America, for example, it's a very different kettle of fish, isn't it? I think we do it much better. As in we allow, I think a more sensible approach to exist, but it's not without its victims, I think, in this country, which we'll get onto in a minute. But the American approach to politics and faith is, it's just too blockish, isn't it? There's a Christian bloc, and there's a evangelical Christian vote, and it's got to be, you have to vote X, Y, and Z because you are this, this, and this. And I don't think that's the kind of politics we have in this country or want in this country myself. But we do have, I think, some hypocritical attitudes around faith and politicians rather than faith and politics, because we're talking about people, aren't we? And what's prompted me to have this conversation, to want this conversation with you, is that Rishi Sunak has spoken about the role his Hindu faith plays in his life, and it seems to be a quietly rather important one. He says his faith is a guiding principle in his life, is guiding him through the election campaign. Said he takes strength from the Indian religion's concept of the Hindu religion we're talking about, the concept of dharma, which tells followers to focus on effort over outcome. And he's a practicing Hindu, and he has a shrine in number 10 for family worship. And he told the Times it's not an easy thing to do, but added that he gets fulfillment from just doing what I believe is right. And it got me thinking about a few victims, I think, of our slightly uncomfortable attitude towards religion that we increasingly have in this country. You might remember Ruth Kelly. She was Education Secretary, I think it was, in one of the Blair governments. She was a practicing Roman Catholic, a very committed Roman Catholic. And in the end, she left politics, and she said, as she said in a recent article, I think it was around the time that Kate Forbes of the SNP was being criticised and almost being made a figure of suspicion because she has a deep Christian faith. And Ruth Kelly wrote at the time that balancing politics and religion can feel impossible in this country. And I think in some respects she's right. She was harking back, I think, to her own experience, but you don't have to go as far back as Ruth Kelly in the Blair years. Tim Farron, former leader of the Liberal Democrats, committed Christian. He led the party for a while, didn't he? But he made clear that while he supported equal marriage and LGBT rights, when asked whether or not he thought it was a sin, he wouldn't or couldn't answer. And do you remember, there were days of pressure to clarify his position. And he made clear he didn't believe gay sex was a sin. But he continued to face questions and interviews, and in the end, he just decided that he was never going to give anyone a satisfactory answer, I think, and he decided to leave. But there are other examples as well. I think the Kate Forbes example is an interesting one, because when Humza Yousaf became first Minister of Scotland, he, with his family, shortly afterwards, he held a brief prayer session in one of the rooms of the house of the First Minister. And of course, he's a practicing Muslim, and that was a first, really, to see, and that was an impressive moment to see, an important moment to see. But it was presented in a largely positive way at the time, as I recall. And yet, literally, another member of the same party who had run for the leadership as well, Kate Forbes, had basically been counted out of it. Maybe not in explicit terms, but almost counted out of it because of her Christian faith. And you do wonder, had she, I don't know, knelt on a kneeler in front of a cross in the same room, whether people would have balked at that. I just wonder why we have, or do you agree with me that we have this discomfort about religion, when for so many people it is a central part of their life? It doesn't mean it's a part of your life you insist other people agree on, or that has to drive every single decision that you make, because in politics, I mean, if you're in politics, you're operating in in Britain anyway, in a pluralistic democracy. So, you better get used to engaging with people who aren't like you and don't agree with you and don't share the same faith as you or have a faith at all, or whatever it happens to be. And I think that is true of wider society as well, whether you're in politics or not. But we do, I think, still have this discomfort, because Rishi Sunak, he's not hiding it, and he's clearly in those comments he's celebrating, if that's the right word, or happy about, expressing his happiness at his faith and how central it is to him. Sadiq Khan does the same, whilst in his role as Mayor of London, very much celebrates other faiths as well. And he gets criticised for doing that as though it's some kind of performative thing, when it's not. I don't think it is anyway. He is the Mayor of London, and it is a very multicultural city. And if you're going to show up as a political leader, you need to make sure you do that pluralistically. But I wonder whether you think, as a voter, that you would want to know more or less about the religious faith, the belief of a member of parliament, or somebody running for prime minister, somebody running for party leadership. I couldn't tell you anything about Keir Starmer and faith. Did I miss it? Or does he just not talk about it? Maybe they don't do God either. But you can about others, can't you? You could about Theresa May. Again, she was Vicar's daughter, wasn't she? And she made no bones about that, and the Christian faith mattered to her. And don't forget the Queen. I mean, she's the head of the Church of England, now the King is. But her Christian faith was very sincerely felt and held, and she didn't mind saying so. Are you comfortable with that in our leadership? Whichever faith you're talking about, are you comfortable with demonstrations of faith, if that's the right word, in politics and in politicians, from politicians? 0345 606 0973. The number to call. You can send a WhatsApp message on that same number, and you can text 84850. I think the case of Kate Forbes is an interesting one. Tim Farron, an interesting one. They clearly were being metaphorically punished politically because they had a faith. But equally, it's a legitimate question to ask a person who's the leader of a major party. It's a legitimate question to ask them about equal marriage and LGBT rights. So you need to be able to answer them. Nick has called from Lambeth on this. Hello, Nick.
Hi, Sheila. Hi.
Where do you stand on this?
I I'm quite uncomfortable with religion and politics, and I have to tread very carefully because I wouldn't for a moment say you know, anything you can do about it. And of course, people with strong faiths, you know, like all of us, can engage in politics. But to give you not an example, because I want to be very wary of using particular issues that would be dangerous. But if you're discussing or engaging, I think engaging was a word you used about in debate over issues, and you find where someone is coming from is a religious precept, that immediately changes the discussion or the argument. I mean, it certainly for me it does. And if I'm talking about, is it all right to use an issue as an example?
Speak freely, Nick.
Well, I feel sensitive because I don't want to cause offence. Let's say assisted dying. Assisted dying. Now, strong views on either side. Now, you can have quite robust conversations about this. But if someone says this is a religious precept, it's just quite wrong, where do you go then? It seems to me immediately puts the issue outside of debate. It becomes inaccessible to you.
So,
and no longer say it doesn't make sense what you're saying, or your argument's full of holes, or whatever you say. I just have to say, okay, and I just have to back off.
Just to be clear, when you say has a religious precept, I doubt people debating would use that term. So do you mean if, for example, you and I were discussing it, and I said to you, I can't vote for this because God gives life and God takes life away, and I can't meddle in between?
Yes.
You would think, right, that door's closed, I can't discuss anything with Sheila.
I would think what can I say? Can I say God's guidance is false? Where can I go after you said that?
Well, we can both, seems to me we can both continue to talk about why I believe that that's the case, and my views on this I haven't concluded at all, by the way. This is a theoretical conversation, yeah.
Well, it is for me, because
yeah,
I think it's a complex issue.
Of course it is, yeah. But me saying, as things stand, you know, my position is like it's a gift, and I don't know how my life came about, but here I am, I have one, and whatever made that possible, I'm going to let it decide, or whether that's God or nature or whatever it is, I'm going to let it decide when my life ends, because I didn't decide when it began, and I'm not going to decide when it ended. And if I attach God to that, right, so that's my belief system.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean I can't listen to you.
No, it doesn't. But of course, you are the voice of sweet reason, aren't you? You put things so gently and so rationally, and there are many others who might simply say, look, it's God's word.
You're a sinner, Nick in Lambeth. We all are. No, I don't. No, I'm because in this conversation, you and I are pretending to be in opposing positions on this. Yeah.
Actually, you could probably guess my position probably by now. But do you see any sympathy with my feeling?
I do, but I think, and you're very kind to say I'm the voice of sweet reason, but I'm not always. But let me just say this to you: if your concern is that somebody's saying God or suggesting to you that their religious faith is informing how they reach a conclusion on this, don't think that closes argument down. It doesn't, or discussion down, or being able to shift somebody's position on it. It just doesn't.
What if I said to the person, and this is getting a bit nasty, what if I said to the person, well, do tell me, when did God indicate to you his views on this matter? And in what way did he do so? Now, that'd be quite aggressive, wouldn't it?
It doesn't need to be aggressive. Just, I think you could say, what's your understanding? Because I think that's a really key question for any of us who decide that God is the reason we think something. I think it's a really key question, because it'll start, you know, if you just think back on your own life, one's own life, you know, it would start with what you were taught at school, in my case Catholic stuff, when you went to Mass, if you went on to read scripture and study things and read more broadly, you know, it would be all of those things. But my presume I know more than anybody else because I just don't.
But you have. Sorry, I don't want to personalise it, but you have strong beliefs.
On what?
Well, I don't know, Sheila.
But you can have strong belief. Anyone can have a strong belief.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be driven by a God reason.
That's absolutely right. That's absolutely right. Maybe there are some people who are irreligious, non-religious, or humanists, or whatever, who are equally inaccessible.
I think that's true. I really do, and I think if you keep your ears and mind and heart open when you speak to people, as much as possible. And there are some people who I no longer get to hear into, frankly, because there comes a point, doesn't there, where sometimes you just think, no, sorry, end of story. But mostly I absolutely don't do that, and you don't sound like a man who does either. But I don't think lack of listening is intrinsically a God thing.
So my instinct to kind of back off, it tells me to reconsider that.
I would encourage you to gently challenge the individual who believes that God is the reason for them thinking X, Y, and Z, to take the time to elaborate on that with you, and then I would come back on that as well. If you wanted to. This has been a very enjoyable conversation. I'm only ending it because I'm being told to. That's how good it was. Thank you, Nick. Nick and Malcolm, it's 3:18.
This is LBC.
Have you ever tried teaching a grandma to suck eggs? I know I was having none of it. Kids, on the other hand, love learning. So Warburton's, the family bakers, have teamed up with the Country Trust to give classrooms a free farm in a box and access to online resources so kids can learn how the toast and crumpets they love get from the fields to their faces. Good stuff. It's dating at Warburton's. Get your school involved. Search Warburton's Good Stuff. Terms and eligibility apply.
Who's Off, the Staff Leave Planner for all businesses, big or small. Sign up today for your free trial. Who's Off, the easy-to-use staff leave planner.
It's 2024. We can use robots to clean our flats. Order Kung-Pao chicken with our watches. And, hey, play my tune. And now there's a better way to do energy. With OVO's energy savings account Beyond, you can save cash today and bank greener rewards for tomorrow. Now that's a first. Search OVO Beyond. Discounts include bill savings by using energy at grid times. Smart meter required. For terms and eligibility, search OVO Beyond.
Hi all.
How are we doing?
Afternoon.
Let's get this meeting.
Meeting started.
When everyone's home, EE Work Mode prioritizes your broadband for working from home with faster speeds in more places than anyone else. So,
Yeah, I've got you loud and clear. There is a valve.
this is broadband made for working from home. Search EE Broadband, powered by BT. Work mode with EE Smarter Plus to verify ee.co.uk/claims. Experience. It's knowing that all holidays are different. That's why Saga Travel Insurance now has 5 cover options to choose from, with no upper age limit and cover for most pre-existing medical conditions, so you can pack the right policy to go with you. Whether you're planning a weekend city break, a week in the sun, or the trip of a lifetime, search Saga Over 50s Travel Insurance for a quote today. Saga. Experience is everything. Provided by Strinsker Insurance Limited.
Sheila Fogarty on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
P. McQuilkin, I think is the name, apologies if I've mispronounced it, has sent a WhatsApp message saying it's not the same at all. Sheila Kate Forbes' religious belief meant she was openly discriminating against a group of people. That's not okay. Well, I would argue with you, P, as to whether that was what she was doing, but you have your view. Harry says politics is a science, religion is a belief system. You don't think politics is a belief system? Blimey. A belief system. Religion is a belief system for the fairies, says Harry in Lancaster. So Harry's mind is well and truly open, isn't it? The idea that politics isn't a belief system is for the fairies too, Harry. John says, so it's okay to be homophobic as long as it's your religion. Ah, excellent. Junior Common Room texting. And then they're not being picked on for their religion, they're being picked on for being bigots. VM says, Sheila, you are the voice of sweet reason. That's nice. That's your new I think there's a lot of people out there, VM, who would disagree with you. I believe in God, but I understand and don't patronise people that do not, says VM. Or in fact, says Quay in her own. I don't know what the VM stands for. Linda, in New Millings, did I get that right, Linda?
New Mills.
New Mills. Somebody's added a random N. Hello.
No, well, it does have an N, but it's silent.
Oh, okay. How very quirky.
We are very quirky here in Ayrshire.
Well, I'm delighted to talk to you, Linda. Quirk away.
I'm delighted to talk to you, Sheila, and I would also take exception with Pete there. It's a very interesting period with Kate Fox when Nicola Sturgeon resigned. Kate Fox is a committed member of the Presbyterian Free Church, up here known as the Wee Frees. It's never been a massive thing in her career before, but within half an hour of Nicola Sturgeon resigning, the Daily Mail ran a headline, "Will it be Wee Free Kate?" That headline was ready to go because she's very impressive. And so I was struck by the idea that Humza got a very easy ride in terms of religion and Kate Fox didn't. So I think religion in that instance was very much used because by certain sections of the media because they really didn't want her in position.
Think about all of the main religions, the big three, if you see what I mean, monotheistic religions, they broadly agree on all the sort of sexual, social stuff, don't they?
I think probably if you take the word that is written down, yes, they probably do. However, as a wonderful quote from the West Wing once said, it may have been the best teaching of the time, but in a modern world, it just doesn't hold water.
No, I'm not suggesting it does hold water. I'm just saying that nobody should be surprised. If you actually sat down Humza Yousaf, Kate Forbes, and a Jewish equivalent sitting next to them, they would probably, broadly speaking, have the same view. You know, not them as individuals have the same views, but their religions essentially say the same things about
And when Kate Fox was asked about these questions, whether it was abortion, single parentage, gay marriage, etc., she always said, well, it's not for me, but I would never change politics. Those were her exact words.
Yeah.
It's not where I live. However, I would never go back policy or change policy, which in actual fact she couldn't have done anyway because SNP policy has to be agreed by SNP conference.
Yeah, and the idea that because somebody in your midst has religious belief, that they automatically want to force that religious belief on the people around them is also for the fairies, I think. Certainly in normal company in this country.
Absolutely. But she's back now and she's doing quite a lot of media and she's again showing how impressive she can be. John Swinney, our First Minister, is also he goes to church every week. Various other members of the cabinet are, and it was just very interesting to me at the time and indeed now as to why
how little is made of that. Do you think it was a touch of misogyny as well as irreligiosity?
I think misogyny in the sense that they definitely did not want another female at the helm who actually has a connection with people.
Yeah, and she got back pretty quickly, didn't she, once the Humza Yousaf situation developed?
Yeah.
She got, into the First Minister role, obviously, but into senior politics again. Thank you very much, Linda. You've educated me on the pronunciation of New Mills in Ayrshire. Thank you. Sarah's called from Barnet. Hi, Sarah.
Hi, Sheila. How are you?
I'm fine, thanks.
Good. I personally quite like when politicians or political leaders do have strong religious beliefs, not because that I totally again understand I don't often assume that they will come from that there might be more hierarchy debate which might end with, well, that the Bible says or whatever.
A kind of superiority complex.
Yes, exactly. And I think that can happen, but I don't think, from my experience at least, I don't think it happens so much in politics really. I think that might happen within religious institutions more. do hold some form of moral belief and value system. Now, they might not live in line with that belief system. They might not act and behave in the way that they should according to those values, that belief system. But I do appreciate seeing what I think are values.
Do you think you get some reassurance from the idea that if somebody has a religious faith, they think about, by the way, there are plenty of people who think about ethics and philosophy and good and bad who don't have religious faith as well. But do you get a sense of reassurance that they probably do if they have a religious faith?
So for me, yes, and it's not, I guess it's not just as you said, there are many people that also have those things without it, and that's absolutely fine. But I think, especially with politicians, where people can be much more wary and distrusting personally for me, it gives me a little bit of grounding. Also from the community, often with having a religious association comes a community, which also means engaging with other people that are not religious.
No. Jako fost altceva. Vrei să spui ceva? Eu conduc acum. N-ai primit-o? Bine, atunci, poate tu nu a fost nevoie, dar să spui un pic aplicația să o accesezi. Să vezi dacă ai ceva de acolo. Mulțumesc, vă ajută. Mai vorbim când ajung pe acasă.
Acasă?
Nu, acasă la mine, când ajung acasă. Doamne,
it worries me that they would bring that into the way they make their decision making. And I think, as you said, this issue of the Queen and such, England, England is historically a religious country, and with the people, we talk about holidays, a lot of them around religion. But yes, I actually, with but with some things actually politically, that England's actually really progressive. So, I don't feel that those values and that hierarchical, decision making actually comes into politics. It doesn't warrant me actually that way.
No. It's all about how, I think whether it's religion or anything else, it's all about how you wield things, isn't it? It's how you communicate it and carry it and exemplify it rather than forcing it down people's necks or trying to shoehorn policy that suits you rather than suits the whole. Mary says, I don't think people mind if the Prime Minister or leaders have a faith or not, or a different belief. I think it's more about the policy they try to introduce or slightly change. Once you try to talk about how people should live their lives, then it becomes an issue, and they will most definitely lose a lot of followers and supporters, says Mary in Brighton. Any politician that does that, I think she means. Keith in Shrewsbury, excuse me, says, I have no problem with Sunak having a Hindu faith. What I don't accept is that religious belief is a veil they hide behind, actually behaviour against their faith. Dodgy contracts to your friends' benefit, or shorting the pound, not my idea of a person of faith. Trump is another one professing to be Christian to get votes where his actions say otherwise, says Keith. 3:30, more of your calls after the headlines from Amelia Cox.
Nigel Farage has pledged to immediately deport foreign criminals and recruit 40,000 police officers as he set out Reform UK's manifesto. Elsewhere, Defence Secretary Grant Shapps has restated his warning about unchecked power if Labour wins a large majority. A man who murdered a retired teacher after luring him to a flat has been jailed for at least 22 years. Paul McNaughton, who's 29, killed Peter Koshin in Leith in August 2022. And 10 people have been arrested after protesters sprayed an office block in the City of London with red paint. Members of the group Palestine Action also filmed themselves breaking into a military equipment factory in Kent. LBC weather, a mixture of sunshine and cloud across most of the UK. Showers will be limited to the north and east by this evening, a high of 22 degrees.
This is LBC. It started with a rainy day. I wanted to get the kids off the sofa and stop watching TV. So I searched rainy day activities on TikTok. There were loads of hacks on there, but the kids really liked making a bird feeder. It's amazing what you can do with a milk carton and a handful of seeds. We hung it outside the window and the birds loved it almost as much as the kids. Who knew a bird box could be this entertaining? It It starts on TikTok.
As it's Riviera Travel's 40th anniversary this year, we've been thinking of ways to celebrate with our luxury river cruises. We could treat you like the VIPs you are and tempt you with life-altering local delicacies. We could show you picture-perfect sights along with tucked-away treasures. But since we do all this already, instead we're including a free superior drinks package worth £400 per person on all our luxury European river cruises. To join the celebrations, book today at rivieratravel.co.uk.
Sheila Fogarty on LBC. Listen on your smart speaker. Just say, play LBC.
I've been updated as to Keir Starmer's position on faith. He doesn't have one. He's an atheist. He said he does believe in faith. It's very Starmer, isn't it? Very Starmer. I believe in faith. Yeah. He believes in faith. And he believes in its power to bring people together. There you go, that's okay. His wife Victoria is Jewish, and their 2 children are brought up in the Jewish faith. And again, that's a very small term to describe a broad spectrum of ways of being raised. Kevin in Derry City. Hello, Kevin. Politics and faith. Politicians and faith.
Yeah, hi Sheila. I was just wondering, were you including the north of Ireland in your introduction as to about the states being much more aligned with faith as their politicians than Britain? Because in the north here, obviously, we have people in government that think the world is 6,000 years old, that think homosexuals are abhorrent, that, you know...
No, you're very right to alert me to that distinction, yeah.
I wondered, Sheila, have you seen the show online recently? It's Bad Faith. I've seen it coming into the next show.
What's it on?
I think it was Netflix I watched it on. Bad Faith. It may have been another platform.
Is it a documentary or a...
Yeah. It shows, well, it claims to show how the right wing have grabbed the evangelical vote in America. Right the way back, it's been unplanned. This is what they claim, although I think it was justified.
Well, they've been doing that for a long time, haven't they?
Oh, absolutely. But how they managed to get a hold of the population was their anti-abortion thing. And that's how they infiltrated the evangelical church. You know? Because
well, and Trump sees that as an opportunity for himself, doesn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. And so does Farage. You know, that would be Farage's next move.
What, abortion?
Well, just to get into the churches. And skew the message from racism to religion.
How will he do that, in your view?
Well, the way they've done it in America, you know? Because really, at the end of the day, the majority of people say in the states that are right-wingers, the Trumpists, if you like, the MAGA, you know, and Trump had a rally the other day for blacks for Trump. It was just a massive crowd of white people. You know, it's so obvious to me that the right wing is a racist concept. You know,
Kevin, hang on. You can't just say the right wing. I mean, you know, there are. It depends. You have to be more specific than that. The right wing in politics isn't intrinsically racist. Just to be clear.
Yeah. You know, I am in the 60s, so I would look at to say the right. I would look from, you know, fascism right the way down to Thatcherism. I would say was far right. And
I wouldn't say that. But...
No, I know, but you know, that would be my view on it. You know, and I watch in America how they have infiltrated the religious people in the States. Look, anyone with any sense would know that Trump is the furthest thing from the Christian world. You know.
Yeah. I know it is. Can I bring it back to Northern Ireland, because you've raised a really important point about Britain and the British Isles, because that is the degree to which religion, because clearly sectarian lines still exist, don't they, in Northern Irish politics and in Northern Ireland?
I don't think it's so religious shit. I think it's more to do with politics and the domination of the unionist majority in the North.
But that has its roots in religion, doesn't it? And
well, there's no segregation, you know. So really, you know, there was lots of people of the Protestant or Unionist persuasion that marched for civil rights in Derby. was a state that turned it into a segregated. One side of the river is Catholic, the other side is Protestant. The Protestant people got the housing, the people on the far side of the river didn't. You know,
The gerrymandering and
yeah, we had Dr. Paisley, another one who actually grabbed the religious vote. You know, we still have that going on here, you know, with big evangelistic style American churches, you know. We have the
how much support does it have in
massive support.
really still?
Massive support. More, it's so much like the States because it's more in the rural areas where the cities, you know, where people are more, like we say, secular.
Well, and they would regard what a more sort of, and it's hard to use. Like you have to choose your language carefully, and I don't mean carefully for fear of offending. I mean carefully in order to get it right. What do more modern mainstream people in Northern Ireland make of that, Kevin?
The majority, I would say, of people that see that, they'll think that should be left in the past. And, you know, we used to talk about the United Ireland, you know, now, and you'll hear that the wording has changed to New Ireland. Because the South wasn't any better. The South was dominated by the Catholic Church.
Absolutely. I mean, the South was practically a theocracy for a long time.
It was, yeah. It was. You know, the priest used to come to your house and Jesus Christ. You know? you know the crack.
I do know the crack, yeah. Quick, tidy up, the priest's coming. I'll be like, oh, for God's sake. Let him in. Yeah, and it's interesting, you know, because I was very lucky because my parents were never dogmatic about their faith. You know, my mum would always be like, come on, you're going to mass, da da da. My dad would be the one behind her rolling his eyes with the rest of us, you know. So there was no dogma going on in our house, if you see what I mean. Yeah.
My mother was Protestant, and my father was a devout Catholic. He was a Republican, not a nationalist. We never supported the IRA or anything like that. You know,
but what's interesting is
Ireland.
But when I was raised in England, but when we used to go over to Ireland in the summer, it was a different. I mean, I'm talking about the 70s here. It was a different. You were going to an incredibly different country than the one you were being raised in. Incredibly different, and a beautiful country, yeah. But in terms of just the way that society was ordered, I mean, you could feel and see. I was only a kid, but I could see the difference, you know, and feel that difference. And that was because it was only just starting to shake off that theocracy, and then only just at that point, you know.
Yeah, well, my kids were all born in England. Whenever I brought them back home, it was hilarious. When I brought them back home, we were down south for a little while, and we drove up into the north through Strabane and then into New Buildings and Derry. And all the flags were out for the 12th. Of course, I forgot it was the 12th. And this place was just filled with Union Jacks and all sorts of flags. And my voice thought the football was on.
Remind me of the date of the Battle of the Boyne, would you? Can you remember it?
1690, isn't it?
No, I don't mean the year, I mean the date and the year. Is it August or July?
The 12th, they celebrate it on the 12th. It's hilarious, you know, because some of them, one of the extreme he was talking about, you know, the grubby little country, you know, why would you go down to the grubby little country? And the guy said, well, you celebrate something down there at the Battle of the Boyne every year or something.
But the reason I ask you the question is in
I took a holiday.
On iPhones now, you know, they have particular days, whether it's a bank holiday or a historical event, whatever. And years ago, when obviously by the time iPhones come in, years ago, a friend of mine said, "Are you free on the 12th of July to come to dinner with so and so and so?" And I just said, "Let me just check my diary." and I looked on the page and it just said the Battle of the Boyne. I said, "I'm sorry, I can't make it. I've got to commemorate the Battle of the Boyne. I've got to go to Northern Ireland to commemorate the Battle of the Boyne." And we were very silly. We now do this every year. We have a race to see which of us can ask, "Are you free?"
Are you free on the 12th? Well, you know, lots of communities, you know, it's a great celebration. My wife, who was Protestant, you know, we're both religious ourselves, and atheists now, I think. But just because of the nonsense that religion had to play in our lives, you know.
I can understand.
You can imagine in the 70s, and telling about marriage, and Jesus, the marriage in Julie's time was the size of my bedroom.
All that hoo-ha about whether you can marry a Catholic or not.
Oh, Jesus, you know, you drive into some villages here, Sheila, and they're poverty-stricken, but yet there's 2 churches. It's great that things are changing, and I just hope that through Labour government we do away with this amnesty for all the killings during the Troubles, for anyone for whatever reason should have happened. And if it's proven to be illegal, they should face justice, in my opinion. And to maybe give us a border poll to let us just see what the lay of the land is. Because there's lots of middle-of-the-road unionists now who realise that their businesses are suffering because of Brexit. It's changed the goalpost.
And history tells us, doesn't it, that the thing that people fight for or talk about wanting, you know, if you think of universal suffrage for women, for women, it's not necessarily just that fight that gets it. It's events proving to people that it's absolutely necessary. And you wonder whether that's what's going to happen with the Irish story. Kevin, pleasure to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed. Kevin in Derry City. Tony is called from Gats Hill. Hello, Tony.
Hello, Sheila. Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon to you. Politics and religion.
Yes, I'm a committed Christian, and I think if you're a politician, you're a Christian, or a Hindu, or a Muslim, that's your that you're representing your constituency. So you listen to people, whether I think you talked to your previous callers during a hypothetical situation about euthanasia, it could be abortion, and people have strong.
It could be anything. It could be care of the elderly. It could be people's working rights. It could be anything. It doesn't have to just be those 2 issues that people.
And we have to respect people. We've all got different views. And so if you're a politician, whatever your faith is in that, you listen to people and respect their views. And sometimes we have to agree to disagree.
Absolutely. But I do think that if you have a religion, or if you don't have a religion, have a faith, you're still a person. You know what I mean? Whether you do or you don't, and you always bring yourself to any conversation that you have or any decision-making process that you're part of. You won't. It's quite hard to do that without bringing some element of yourself into discussion, isn't it? If I was having, let's say I was an MP and I was having a really big conversation with a local councillor about how social care should be delivered, without a doubt I can tell you now that if that was a conversation I was having, my understanding of human dignity and human rights, which is deeply embedded in what Christianity has taught us for 200 years, 2,000 years, would absolutely be playing a part in what I was saying out loud. But it doesn't mean I'm saying, I'm a Catholic, I'm right, you must agree with me. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, I think that's true. And
you can't leave it at the door, is what I'm saying. You can't just leave bits of yourself at the door.
I think it's hard, I think, to be a politician with all the things that you have to cope with and the change in society in many, many ways. Lots of complication things that you just got to respect people, treat people with dignity.
And that has to go both ways, though, doesn't it? Because
it does. You'll get people who will either shout at you or try and shout you down. Yeah. You know, I protested at Parliament over euthanasia or over different things, but I just.
For something that seems so innovative, its fate is perhaps surprising.
During the 50 decades of its existence, nothing was removed, nothing added to the building before it was demolished finally in 2022.
The original concept meant that the individual capsules needed to be repaired or replaced every 25 years. By 2006, it was estimated that each capsule would need 6.2 million yen in refurbishments. And as the global recession in 2008 came to the fore, the building was left largely abandoned. However, before it was demolished, a local non-profit organisation managed to save 23 of the capsules. 14 are now being restored to their original state. The remaining 9 are being stripped down and given to new owners with a blank canvas ready for redesign. There's a long-term goal for the pods to be scattered across the world, and a representative of the non-profit group feels that this is in keeping with the architect's original aims. But for me, I feel there's a bigger takeaway for us here when it comes to cities of the future. Lecturer Sen Kwan says it's all about recapturing an energy.
The optimism that Japan exuded in the 50s and 60s is really, I think, clearly encoded in the vision that is expressed in his plan for Tokyo in 1960. I think this is why architects, people today, look back to the 50s because of the sense of optimism, this idea that there are possibilities for improvement, for change, for the better.
And it was this same energy that Tanguy took further afield after a catastrophic event in North Macedonia, which was then part of Yugoslavia.
It's an exciting story, and it's also a cautionary tale. My name is Michiel van Eersel, and I work as a curator and as an urbanist. Let's go back to 1963. In the middle of the night, there's an earthquake at a 6.3 magnitude that devastates the city of Skopje. Somewhere between 65 and 75% of the urban fabric of all buildings, infrastructure, etc. is demolished in a split second. The epicenter of the earthquake is right in the center of the city. So it's a complete catastrophe. A huge international rescue and relief operation was started. Roughly 75 nations from around the world started sending tents, money for that devastated city to survive in the first few weeks and months. When that first phase was over, they insisted on how to rebuild the city. Quite quickly, they came to the idea to launch an international competition. Long story short, the winning proposal was by Kenzo Tange and his team. He gave them something to aspire to, something different. But he got 60% of the votes. Actually, a pair from Croatia got 40% of the votes. And then the jury decided to merge their plans, with Kenzo Tange in the lead and the other two kind of following. I think this is one of the reasons why it did not live up to expectations, because right from the start, the plan was a compromise.
There were two main design components that Kenzo Tange wanted to bring to Skopje. The first was known as a city gate, a portal into the city, bringing together all kinds of traffic, cars, trains, buses from all around Europe through one central transport hub. But what would have been an impactful structure never came to be. Something that was realised, though, was a concept known as the City Wall, bringing capsule architecture to Skopje.
A wall consisting of apartment blocks with some other amenities and functions on the ground floor, and it would literally shield off the inner city from its surroundings, including this transportation. So the whole idea was that you would arrive in Skopje, you would feel like you were in a cosmopolitan city at this main transportation hub. Then by foot or by tram or by bus, you would go into the city, and there you would find a relatively peaceful and quiet inner city that was walled off by this residential park. Local architects actually did design and build parts of the city wall, but it were just glimpses of what it could be.
It might not have lived up to Tanguay's original ambitions, but for one architect, there was a special, memorable quality.
My name is Oliver Lievsky. I'm a trained architect and spatial planner. I have the privilege to reside in the Tange City Wall, in one of the apartments. For me, it was one of the most insightful and profound city experience, because I actually firsthand observed the high quality of urban space. It also enabled a different user experience. An enormous diversity of users were actually using the block for different reasons, which contributed to the quality of the social cohesion that present there. From homeless people to urban misfits, up to families with small kids and elderly people sitting and residing and spending time on the same mini urban space. So for me, that is a sign of a high quality urban design.
By the 1980s, North Macedonia, which was then part of Yugoslavia, had a sudden economic downturn with mass unemployment and huge national debt. And in the 1990s, this worsened as the wider pan-Yugoslav nations collapsed into war. New, more urgent priorities overshadowed Tanguay's plans. But Van Ursel thinks there are numerous lessons from his legacy.
This ability to overcome your own limitations is really what sets him apart. You depend on others, this is the only way you can survive, this is what strengthens you. He actively reached out to his peers in other parts of the world, so to kind of open up and to allow others to enter your way of thinking and to let them affect it. I think this is maybe one of the strongest things we can still learn from him, knowing that there are still lots of architects who feel isolated. But he also had his clear weaknesses. So I would say, instead of being nostalgic about Kenzo Tanga, I think it's better to keep his spirit alive, of continuously reimagining to try to do good. And he's just one of the last in a very long tradition of trying to do good. But he clearly failed in certain aspects. So how to do it differently? We could challenge this idea that designers should be from somewhere else. The savior saying coming from elsewhere. I think this is an outdated concept. Students can go on exchange. I think they get their influence, they get their inspiration and input from elsewhere, but then they can also go home and build their own practice. At the same time, to keep this openness, to not think you know everything because you know the place. So to be more locally embedded, at the same time to be internationally aware or sensitive. I think to have these two sides would be a way forward from the time of Kenzo Tanga.
And there's something else to question.
Even though he was part of the naturalist movement that believed in organic growth, still he imposed large megastructures on cities, thinking that it would be a solution to all the problems. By now we understand that it's maybe more about creating the conditions for things to grow on their own, for local elements to kind of come together. That might be the role of design, instead of overwriting something with a new script.
The idea of being attuned to the local environment and working with it leads me to a newly established urban design concept that emerged in 2019. It's called multi-species urbanism and was coined by the scholar Deborah Solomon. City explorer Olivier Ilievsky, who lived for a time in Tanguay's city wall in Skopje, explains it.
I believe that the destiny of humanity is fundamentally entangled and dependent upon the fate and well-being of all other beings in existence, not only humans. By re-establishing our relation to nature, establishing new types of partnerships with non-humans that will have mutual benefit.
There have been debates surrounding multi-species urbanism. Some feel it deprioritises humans, but its supporters say as much as cities are designed around capital, infrastructure and inhabitants, in the future they should at least consider things like soil composition, as well as the presence of wildlife or native tree species. And it could be that not taking all of these organic components into account was in part failing the metabolists in Japan.